Well, I just managed to start the thing finally. I don't know why it has to require me to go into use another computer. I'm now going to need to screw around a little bit with my screen because this really I only have two power outlets in the house. I have a distinct lack of tradies and getting a bit depressed. I don't know how trades can always, like, if you go away, they do something and they always come back. When I come back, something really bad has been done that I just cannot believe that anybody would do. That's kind of my life, my life in unadulterated tradie land. See if I can give you some bit of time. Just got to rearrange my screens because I had to get out of one computer and into another, and yeah, it's just not simple. Get a little bit depressed with this building stuff. I don't know how people handle it. How are we all? Does anyone get irritated when somebody asks you that? No screen yet, thanks Charles. Hopefully I can see stuff. There is no voice, no screen, thanks Spiro. Let's get some of these things over into the far corner. You should be able to see a bit of screen. Somebody today asked if tattoos make people more attractive. I would have thought they would have known the answer to that question. That is just mind-bogglingly stupid. Of course they make them ugly. Like, some women think a butterfly looks good. It's a slippery slope. Anyway, I'm probably pissed off people with a tattoo. I do not think so, especially large area tattoos all over their necks and all that sort of stuff. It's just an accident, just a horror thing waiting to happen, in my opinion. And we're going to see this theme throughout the night. Now, that's not a bad thing in the long run. Not a bad thing in the long run. Okay, so let's play with recording. Should be able to see this. All screens, all screening done. I hope I'm looking at the right place. So let's go. So welcome to the financial markets forecast. I won't do a full screen because if I do, something will screw up. And it's for 2026. As you may have noticed that I've been working as I go. I adapt things, I come up with new ideas, and just kind of this forecast evolves until by about January, late January, I've generally got it worked out. And for some reason here I've said here 2025, and I think I've got one that is a 2015, 20. That's right. This is not okay. This is okay. So this is this one. The actual date is wrong. Let me save this. Sorry for this. I do all this work and then some spanner has to be thrown in. As Malcolm Turnbull, who sat next to me at one lunch with the Equity Link, smelling of mothballs, said, "Life was not meant to be easy." And I agree with him. He was a pretty simple guy. Charles is saying, I get annoyed because it started to be normalized in professional settings. Now it's in some of the more casual corporate settings, like in tech, females will turn up with very large visible tattoos, yet everyone is dressed in quite formal business attire. It's very strange. Yeah, I think we've been invaded by aliens myself. Have not seen that many males in formal business settings where the tattoos are visible, the men cover them. Yeah, I think it's women wanting to show their empowerment for some reason. We all know they're more powerful than men. Let's have a look at the forecast for 2026. We'll go through some cryptos and things. And reality is, of course, that we have to be careful with forecasts. Forecast is not the terrain. And we will do some disclaiming and warning for you. And I know you love it. And it's even better at night, isn't it? Policy and Financial Services Guide for further information. Bitcoin has been battling. Really has. Truly, Bitcoin has been battling. We're seeing a bit of a rally at the moment, and usually this seasonally, particularly in the futures, the trend starts up till really into mid-February, and then even tries its hand till May, usually, for a bit of strength. Usually, not this time. It was even stronger and kept going. The pattern is somewhat corrective in nature at present. So seasonally, we should have seen a bit of a low and hopefully a little bit of a float up. That float up currently could be to approximately around about the 98,000 area. And the pattern that it's doing at the moment, it's 98,000 to 99,000. That pattern that it's doing is somewhat good. Sentiment has come off from being absolutely abysmal to just being reasonably crappy. That's the way I'd call it anyway. So, the forecast, and this is the theme that we'll see going on in life. Interest rates were good for lower interest rates were good for Bitcoin. Now we're seeing higher interest rates around the world, particularly on the long end of the curve. And Trump's been beating the drum saying, please, 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 lower interest rates, Mr. Spiro said, I remember the 1980s, people feel bad about their tattoo. Some people were so embarrassed to have them, they had them removed. Now every man and his dog are getting them, and they're getting them all over their bodies. I think it's a mental problem. Sometimes you see a nice lady with a butterfly on her butt cheek or something like that, and you think, that looks all right. And then they get older, and you think, that doesn't look good anymore. Angry Anderson had a lot of tattoos, and one of my customers was a skin surgeon, or at least a dermatologist, and he had a business removing tattoos. And Angry Anderson came to him, and he said, "I want this tattoo removed." And he said, "Which one? There's 7,000 on your arm." He said, "This one." Okay, so he removes the tattoo, and then 3 weeks later, he talks to Angry, and Angry goes, he says, "Oh, how's the skin going there?" "Oh, I've put another tattoo on top of them." So people are not necessarily rational. Get rid of this tattoo, get some clean skin, and then wallpaper it over. Anyway, so interest rates going up suck. They really do. As bonds go down, interest rates go up. That makes it harder for Bitcoin to do stuff. Now, I'm going to do something that I haven't been able to do so far. Here we go. I think I want to make sure this screen's up. That when we look at Bitcoin on the rallies from top to top, Bitcoin has been doing about a 1400 day top to top movement. So I'll give us a little attempt to get this working. Whether that works or not is another matter. Monthlies. I don't know how to squeeze it up. It's probably not going to be worth doing now. But in terms of timing, I hadn't noticed this before, so forgive me. This is probably log chart. I need to change this. Get rid of chart. Set scale. Linear semi-log. No, seems okay. It just looks like a log scale because Bitcoin's done so well. But there's been like a 1400 bars, which is, let's just say, 3.5 years. So 3.5 years from top to top to top. This is one top. Let's call that 40 years, 40 bars, 47 bars. And over here was a 45 bars. So 45 months, 45 years on Wall Street. How long was this? 39 bars. To this high was 45 bars. So there's some top to top relationship, which is worrying me. And so really what I'm saying is the pattern's a bit dodgy. The retracement should be up into the 98,000 to 99,000. If you're long, you want to bank some cash. Seasonally, it doesn't look terrible just yet, and could top out in early January maybe, and then it usually falls off. So be careful with your Bitcoin. And like I said at the start, after any major hangover, after every good party, there are usually a few hangovers. And that's where we get our little bear markets. So we've had a run of confidence. The Trump families have probably scammed a few $1 billion off generally uninformed public by floating a coin that's really not worth anything, the Trump brothers at least. Suddenly Baron Trump is a marvelous trader of Bitcoin. So the falling of interest rates make Bitcoin and cryptos harder. Sorry, the increase in interest rates, the falling of bonds make Bitcoin and cryptos harder. So if this there's also a theory that there's a 4-year cycle. If it is a 4-year cycle, unfortunately, Bitcoin's going to look a bit like this year. So take your cautious pills, and forgive me, the inverter for the solar is pinging away, and it's losing the sunlight at the moment. And so whenever it loses some sunlight, it beeps and screams and disturbs my brain. That's Bitcoin. So caution is the better part of valor. And let's go up, usually up to the first week in December. That didn't really work. Mainly the big buyer has been Michael Saylor of Strategy. And what I reckon we need to do is just be cautious, don't get overboard. We're long at the moment on a PHG trade. I'm trying to find my normal charts here. Can't see them. Here we go. taking some profit or getting out of dud positions is probably the best way to go in this for Bitcoin, and bringing the stop losses up if you are long. Now, so that's 98,500, the futures 98,700. It would be great if it would go to the moon. We see a good burst of buying on Friday. Michael Saylor had some orange dots. I still haven't had a conference with him yet. I just haven't been up to it. He's asked me to have a chat with him because he seems to think that I understand why institutions are not buying his stock. And I kind of do. I get it. 34.88 to 36.13. There's a few things that is got going against him. And so Ethereum, same story. Ethereum is doing a bit better than Bitcoin. There's a bit of a burst. So what we want to do is to try and just manage up on our PHG trade and work through it. It's not necessarily a good time seasonally to be long, and it's not necessarily a good time pattern wise to be long, particularly with this little chart pattern there. At the moment we have some waves of change. Wave 5's up may turn down, and this is, I don't know why this is over here. I don't know why that got copied over there, but it's wrong. The wave 5, there are none in wave 5's up, which may turn down, and we have wave 5 down, which may turn up. Ethereum, Fidelity, BTC, HODL, an ETF, iShares Ethereum, MSTR MicroStrategy, Simplify Bitcoin, and MBT Micro Bitcoin futures are down, not out. Now, usually after an extreme move down, it usually needs a sideways movement or a basing formation. And in Ethereum and Bitcoin, we haven't really seen it. We've seen it a bit of a congestion area, but not a long basing formation, not long enough. If you want to go back through history, I don't want to spend a lot of time on cryptos because really that was last year's party. We have flow waves of wave 4s, Monero versus Bitcoin and Monero versus US dollar, project possibly higher. These are privacy coins. And we have wave 4 projects lower, Solana ETF, Canary H bar, and Solano ETF, Solano futures, and Ripple futures. So let's move on to Forex for Monday, 5th of January. Here's the disclaimer and warning, which you've been disclaimed and warned at a few times probably today. So US dollar index. So this is the likely path of the US dollar index. And I want to be able to show you this in full screen. And I'll probably have to swap it around. Oh no. Okay, so this is the US dollar index. If this is an average year, we see a high the 1st to the 3rd week of January, basically. Then we'll see a low 2nd week of May, a high 1st, 2nd week of July, and then a high in mid-October and a low in 1st week of November. And backing track, this didn't come out the way that I wanted it to. A low at the end of July through to the 3rd week of August. So buying opportunities here. Now normally it's a turning point in the US dollar index at this time of year. And if it's been going down, it's usually is a time where it has a low, and it's certainly been into the low areas, and then it starts up, and then it likes to go up till about 28th of March, or at least likes to hold up till the 28th of March before then starting to have a bigger problem on the way down. That's usual. Okay. Now, if this is an average year, the 2026 path is similar, kind of, not necessarily similar, sorry. Is fighting that pattern, trying to hold up for a while, and then the overall pattern gets it and it has another go down. That's the theory at this point. So it can be still weak. And the US dollar has been degraded in a lot of ways against gold, against silver. Most currencies have been degraded. Trump doesn't seem to not know how to print money, and I guess that suits the people that are running him. If we have all inflation, we'll end up like Germany, and they'll get the hard assets because we won't have enough money to pay for it, our food. They bankrupted Germany. So this time of year, US dollar index is there. We do have a Aussie dollar effect. And there's, as I've been saying, there's a bit of screwed up nature in terms of the currencies. They're not, some of them are working opposite to what their normal patterns are. The euro usually has a top around this time and should fall off the twig. That's as simple as that. Let's have a look at the Aussie dollar. Now this pattern is not as good in the Aussie, I believe. It normally tops out around this time. US dollar index bottoms. Then the Aussie dollar starts to fall. At the moment, I'd agree with that scenario if it breaks 65.80. I was also seeing Stephen Koukoulas forecasting that the Aussie dollar, I think, should go up. And I think he talked about 75 cents. I just saw his brief forecast, and somebody mentioned how where the forecast that he'd missed, parts of the forecast that he'd missed what was going on, or what actually happened. That's the issue with forecasting. It's complete with not perfection. Let's at the moment we have, in terms of we don't have any changes in trend or flow waves with the forex, and so we'll get onto something a little bit more simple. You have a disclaimer and warning, which you've seen, and we'll have a look at the commodity forecast. We have that's the mass pressure chart for 2025. It did follow that path reasonably well. It was a bit stronger during the year than I thought, and then it started to fall away. Let's have a look at the 30-year bonds. Just look back at a little history. This was 2024. Generally, didn't have a very good time of it overall, and that's because the US government's just borrowing. Trump says how much he's improving the economy. Statistics seem a little bit all over the place at the moment. Tariffs kind of tough. Job numbers are a bit weak. You'd think that after getting rid of all the illegal immigrants who were doing all the work that there would be a lot more jobs around. Apparently not. Can't get people off fentanyl and tranq too easily, so I don't know what the social repercussions are of these things. So we have basically not many waves of change. Corn has been up and may turn down, and wave 4 projects possibly higher are Toronto Stock Exchange 10-year Canadian bonds, if you really care about them. Let's look at some higher time frame thoughts with gold. I think we have that principle that I espoused earlier. I think that really is coming up, and that's the fact that there's been a big party in gold. There hasn't been a big party in silver. It's only just starting. Gold's certainly appealing, but is it enough for a huge bull market? The answer is I don't think so. I think it really needs to be just looks to the old principle. People have made a lot of money in gold. People have made a lot of money by holding on to gold. And now I think we're probably going to get just a bit more painful hangover. I know gold kicked up today. Silver kicked up also because of Venezuela. I think it was arranged with Maduro. He was a happy chappy. He'd be cantankerous and not posing for pictures and pretending you're an airline pilot. You were a fighter pilot, the glasses on. He wouldn't have asked him to, can I get a picture of sitting in the pilot's seat? That sort of stuff. So gold, we have basically found some support, which is great, but I think we'll spend a bit more time just chopping sideways. Eventually maybe 49.67, but it's going to have a confusion trade, a bit of kiss and a cuddle and a lie down and a snooze. That would be more likely than just shooting for the moon to 49.67. Of course, it really needs to click above 4,600 to change its trajectory. So what does gold normally do at this time of year? So now gold usually keeps spinning along into February before wanting to fall over. It's had a bit of a shock last week. This week seems to be picking up its feet. So I would say probably look to about 4,500 again. That was my original target where I thought it would have some trouble. At least one of the targets once it broke through this 4,400 area, 4,500 target. Let's have a squeeze at the bonds themselves. And normally at this time of year it's coming off a peak, which it has, and usually getting a bit soggy and sloppy as the federal government starts borrowing more money and it cascades down into May, June. Talk about May, June in the equities soon. So forecast wise, it's be careful for those hangover stocks. Silver, let's have a look at the silver pattern. It's not the same as gold. Seasonally, it's usually rip roaring. So seasonally and hangover wise, I think silver is the better one. I hate saying that when everybody else is saying it, and I'm not just saying it because I'm saying it and because they're saying it. I'm saying it because look at the volume declining on the daily charts as price fell. There's still a good reason for silver to play catch up, and I know everybody's saying that, but it's the truth. High speculation and low stock levels, and also the manipulation that basically forced it higher. Now, I think I told you before Maduro was the attack went in, they shipped the silver out, according to a few sources. Whether this is true or not, it's a different matter. but apparently very much the same thing has happened before all coups in the last 20 or 30 years. Basically, they try and get the government person out, prime minister or the president or the dictator, and they give him a bit of money and they say, look, go live in Switzerland for a while, occasional visits somewhere else. You get out, we'll take over the country, we'll get the oil, get the iron ore, turn it into a real country. So Bob's your uncle. At the moment, silver's still better than gold. It's a simple upshot. Let's move on to equities. So that's probably what we're mainly here for. So let's have a look at the national US stocks financial forecast. Here's the disclaimer and warning. And again, we've seen a fantastic run in S&P, reasonable run in the NASDAQ, which has not got as much legs. We've seen the Dow run well. We've seen the Dow transports run well. And so we get some hangovers, but there are market crashes that will go on with this. Bulls turn to sideways, bears eventually end up finding a bottom, having a good bounce and running away from it. So, every good bear creates a bull, or at least a long sideways movement. Every good bull creates a bear and gets some headaches for either party. The waves of change which have been up and may turn down include the S&P 500, cash index, the UK FTSE. So the fifth wave patterns we're running out of trend on those two, and I think also I said that we had long-term bear pause warnings in the S&P. Wave 5 downs ends may turn up, we have nothing, and wave 4 projecting possibly higher is the BlackRock run country German DAX. No wave 4s that project lower. This was the mass pressure chart for 2025. It was a bit of a bummer, man. Let's see if I can do some pattern here. Tick myself off. Do his. It was wrong. That was the 2025 one. The last leg is not needed. High end of July. This was another one which was, I think this was the average normal year, high mid-July, low in mid-September, and then up into the close. That was more ticky boom. Now, we have to keep sense about it. Now, with Mr. Tritch, this is economic cycles, as I've tried to explain a few times, and 2026 is the time where the economic season should peak and then drop down into 2032. Currently, we're seeing strange demographics, really, really weird demographics. White people are dying off, and illiterate Middle Easterners are really, and Africans are really hanging out a lot more in other countries and being a burden. There's been a pushback against them being here, but then everyone feels sorry because Palestinians, basically, Médecins Sans Frontières has been told by Israel can't come in. Doctors Without Borders, that is. So they're really trying to make it a little bit more like genocide, let's just say. Doing that. So economically, this was the Dow mass pressure chart. Bing bong, no good. Good for a while, but no good. By mid-September and then down, no good forecast. Now where is this? By late October, that was S&P 500. High in early May. This is the mass pressure chart for this year with that grain of salt. We expect a high in early January, a low in early February. This is Gann's mass spread chart. High end of May, and then a low the third week of November. Again, this is low probability being Christmas. So I'd give it about a 30% chance of this one working. And we're going to look at a normal or an average year. And if the Dow, if 2026 is an average year, this is what the Dow should look like. High end of March, low in mid-February, give or take a week or so. Low, as Dawn would say, threading the needle at 100 yards. Low in the second week of October before doing the Christmassy thing. This is the mass pressure chart for the S&P. Low in mid-November, high early Feb, low early March, high late May, and low mid-November. So this is also low probability, probably a 30% chance of it looking like this. I say that for a few reasons, because reality is we have, if the year 5 is a good year, then the year 6 is a little bit slower, but the year 7 is a ripper. The S&P 500 cash index, if 2026 is an average year, we expect a high mid-April, a low mid-May, a high mid-August, and a rally into mid-April, and then a low mid-September, and then a rally up into the rest of the year. So I'd expect a pattern more of this style for the S&P. German DAX, that's got all the manipulations and wonderful things that come with being super controlled by BlackRock. Any questions about that? So the US still will be fairly okay to trade, but be cautious really mid-April, and then think about buying mid-May or June, and then look for a high mid-August, and then be cautious until mid-September, and then see how it goes. So it's just a guidance, you know what I mean. Keep on looking at the charts. There's a lot of money being made in a small concentration of large stocks with the US, and that can be really good if you're one of those executives and you work for the company, or if you bought for the company. But I think there's been too much love, and Trump is possible to turn around and hurt them in some ways. Don't know how he would do it, but he might just turn around and say, hey, Bill Gates, Microsoft, I'm taking half. Your government is your partner, Bill, and Bill will love that, wouldn't he? So let's look at the ASX forecast for Monday, 5th of January. Now, I've been saying the stock market should hold up until then, until this time, maybe until the 7th or so. We're all pretty well aware of that. And this is a tough year for thinking about, because we've had a good run in the Australian stock market, nowhere near like the US has been, but it should be topping in the next couple of days and heading back down. The next speed bump that we could expect is later February. That's the next decent speed bump. And we'll move on. Here's the disclaimer and warning, which you've been disclaimed. this is the year of the horse. It's got speed, momentum, rotation, and we will have new winners as old leaders fade. Sharp corrections followed by strong recoveries. It's not a straight line bull market, but excellent for active investors, traders, and stock pickers. So whereas before you've been able to buy the S&P stocks, the Magnificent Seven or whatever they are, and or whatever they're called, and just keep buying it. So the ETF buyers have creamed it. The passive investors have creamed it. 2016, 2026. Those times are for more traders. We don't know what's happening Super Bowl wise, so we can't make any assertions. This has not been very effective over the past 5 or 6 years, so I'm thinking of decommissioning it. We have some waves of change, and forget about these ones. They're actually not on the dance card. They're just leftovers. We have wave 5 down ends, which may turn up in Aristocrat Leisure, Amcor, Coles, Linus, org.asx. Did you know we're not allowed to call by the TGA anybody with Lyme disease that they have Lyme disease? Now it's believed that Lyme disease was created in a lab by the US government. So we're talking of Lyme arse. But if the person is diagnosed in the US, it is okay to call them Lyme disease. Officially, Lyme disease doesn't exist in Australia. They refuse to have it. They have Lyme disease-like symptoms. Pretty ridiculous. We also have PME.ASX, RMD.ASX. Those sort of stocks may be ones worthwhile looking at in the earlier part of the year. Let's have a look at PME, Pro Medicus. I have a feeling this has lost a lot of friends. Here's this on the monthly charts. Probably looking down to $207. It's a bit like CSL. Everyone loved it until they don't, and they're finally giving up and capitulating. And I remember when it was down here, PHG member, probably around about here, one PHG member just said, this is the best thing. He was right. Beautiful move, hopefully sold out, and banks some cash. We also have Coles. This is something I don't like looking at. Don't know why. Don't like shopping there either. Coles, looking down towards $20.67. Don't really have any concept of what its seasonal patterns are because they've been put back on the market, on the stock market. At the moment, this just still feels corrective, so $20.67 area is right. Coles and Woolies, though, do not cater for the majority of the population who eat curry. They just don't. So those people prefer to shop at Indian shops. Coles hasn't really worked it out yet. They're going to have little enclaves where you can have some Somali food, and next to the food there you'll have some machetes. Do you know you can't buy a knife in Victoria in supermarkets? I tried to. It's impossible. You have to go to a hardware store to buy a knife. I don't know why Somali and Sudanese don't think to buy them knives in hardware stores, but I'll get there. I'll work it out eventually. So Coles, the other thing is ORG. The monthly charts, ORG also in corrective phase. gets a little bit horrible below $11.15 and probably visits $10.34. We also have low waves. None project higher. AMC.ASX projects lower and GMG.ASX projects higher. Here's a bit of the likely path. This was what we got last year. For a normal year, it was kind of like that. A good second half. A little bit of a wild movement. I think we were buying in this area of the curve. No, actually it was over here. And then it rode it up and then it got smashed down. But then it started up again in a lot more stronger ways, finishing pretty good. This is a 2025 all odds mass pressure chart showing positive nature, high in September, low in October. And this is if the all odds is an average year. We have a high in the second week of May, a low in the second week of July, a high in late August, and a low in mid-September, and generally finishing off with a good time. Now, I thought I'd done the mass pressure chart. I'd had that here. Might have been on the other one. So what I'm saying is, this year it's still okay to buy, but act like a trader. An investor will probably get frustrated because he will not have they will not have the big move. So as an investor, it's going to be tougher. I think it will be all right for holding into 2027. We're getting higher interest rates. Things are a little bit hairy, but they can't get worse than they were 2 years ago, can they? I think we've had a lot of pain and we deserve to have a bit better time. We'll probably have higher interest rates, no question about that. So, if you've got any questions, ask me now. For the ASX, your questions could be you bring out your dead. Spiro asks, Boss Energy today closed at $1.61. It's been kind of around there before, hasn't it? I got a long way to break even at $4.01, so the big loss there. Targets and stop losses, please, David. Yes. Okay, so BOE. What I have noticed is that things like Bannerman and Deep Yellow are better than Boss. Pattern-wise, it looks like it's complete for a rally back up to about $2.50. Spiro, now I probably said that a little while ago as well, but it really needs to get above $1.86. Let's go down under the weeklies and see if I can find anything fun. This is a bring out your dead, definitely. Now, unfortunately, the volume is not really cutting the mustard, so probably best to have a stop loss at $1.25, and at least you didn't vomit down at $1.07. Hope for $2.47 to $2.19, and maybe shell out 1/3 or 1/4 your position out into that zone. So that's a BY, bring out your dead. In terms of bank the cash, this is where you can take profit. ARU.ASX, Arafura. Now, they were doing cap raise, weren't they? It seems to have come down into some support, and the volume is still not sensational, but probably looking to 44 cents to 46 cents in the best dreams, and a little bit at 36 cents. So they did the cap raise already. Okay, that's probably why it's gone up. That's got out of the way. But it's not gone up much from where it was. Wasn't it 24 cents or 25 cents, I think, cap raise? Above 40 cents is good for it, closing above there, but look at the gap here. So really, another place to shell out is about 37 cents. Mineral Resources in a trading halt for a large acquisition apparently. What is the outlook to help decide if I take up any? Now that was a good one, wasn't it? When we were trying to fish down lower down, it decided to go higher. This is Mineral Resources. MIN, as opposed to Mount Isa Mines. Really, $58.72 is quite possible, because it was above here before, wasn't it? Yeah, there we go. $65.30. Very possible. Probably the best area to take some profit and then raise your stop loss to $47.50 there, child. Yeah, so you're saying they were short of a few million. G will buy ARU. The problem, I think, with ARU was, like, wasn't Albo involved underwriting it? Something like that? That dodgy guy? So anything banking the cash, I'd be thinking about banking the cash on those ones. Any get out of jail cards. So as Mark pointed out today, he said usually when we're getting these movements into these equity peaks and, you know, economic activity being great, and ending the cycle, interest rates are going up, and so stock markets and property markets go up on higher interest rates, which doesn't make a lot of sense from the way that we've been playing the game lately. The get out of jail cards are where you might have a stock that you've been holding on to and hoping, where you could get out at for a little bit of saving face or cutting losses, and how to manage out using stop losses. Don't read the conclusion because it's just rubbish at this point. Now for you. Okay. $20.26 is generally okay in equities, but likely to be a trader's market. XJO.ASX may catch up. They catch up with US. Equities. It will be not as bad as you may think, but like after any party, many need a rest and recovery. So that's the philosophy I think we need to take. Bonds are probably not going to let us see the lights get shot out, because fund managers are obviously going to have the option of getting high interest rates and not having to take much risk on throughout the year. My preference is to still remain bullish, probably into 2027, and to take the swing trading approach really this year. We may get better because we're materials index stocks. That may be the uplift. Interest rate based products stocks are going to be probably more difficult to get inspired about. If there is to be wars and things, we have on the one hand, this is really annoying to have to say, Venezuela being unleashed on the world without sanctions, because somehow Maduro's deputy will be a better leader than Maduro, even though she's followed in his footsteps. Maduro is apparently a 12th tribe, the 13th tribe person like Milei, and Boric. Boric is the head of Chile. Who remembers Kevin Boric? Serbian. I used to know his cousin Violet. So the concentration of leaders is interesting in the world, and where they come from, and religion, dominance of one certain type of people. But I don't know how that plays out, whether we actually have a good business time or we'll just basically part of the return of their Messiah, in which case we need the Christian versus Muslim war that's what they need to do that. Spiro says Venezuela is all about keeping Russia and China out of there. You could say that about most countries. I mean, the Pacific, China's been pretty well always all in there. Africa, pretty well China's always all in there, supporting. America hasn't done much to keep them out, despite its myriad of bases. I'm sounding a little bit cynical, but chart-wise, I find it forecast and charting wise, I find it hard to get totally bearish until 2027. I'm cautiously bearish from time to time. Trade it. Mark, you have probably a bit of a different idea about what I'm saying there. Can't see a grand bear. All I can see is the tiredness of having a shock, and markets have to stay there. It's a bit of a shock with Venezuela, Euro. America comes in and exercises a type of gunboat diplomacy that it hasn't done so for 150 years. They used to be full on running South America. Is US a threat to Australia with all the resources garnering? That's quite possible. We might not have two greater markets. We're going to have to play a tightrope game. The rest of the world. So gold not as good as gold, not as good as silver. The other thing I would say is that Bitcoin, wait for tracements to bring up stop losses and decrease exposures. It might be that Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy ends up owning the whole lot of Bitcoin supply. I think he's got just under 1 million coins already. But then, if he owns those, will anybody play ball? Interesting question. If he owns most of them, will they just turn their back? Thinking the strategy is BlackRock just keeps on dumping. Michael Saylor keeps on buying at lower levels, not seeming to market up or down. I don't know where he finds the people. Yeah, at the moment 2026 doesn't look bad, doesn't look great like 2025, 2024 stock market. Other stock markets generally get better at the time. I hope that's enough for you. Sorry about the start. That's just typical of computers doing their favourite thing. Charles says, well, he can only keep on doing that if he starts leasing his Bitcoin back in BlackRock for the ETF. The ETFs will not be able to run if it's Saylor owns them. Yes, that's right. If Saylor owns all of the other Bitcoin, all of the Bitcoin, then in theory prices should go up, but and go up substantially. But if he owns them all and he's just hogged them all, then basically they can just say, sorry, Michael, we don't want Bitcoin. We're going to play with some other paddock, leave him with something that may not be worth anything. I guess that's just the plausibility. And he is not part of the club. You've got to understand, it's about the club, not part of it. Managed to find people to invest with. I still don't understand the perpetual note thing they've got where he pays 10% but can elect not to pay that coupon. I don't quite understand how an option not to pay. I don't know how that affects MicroStrategy balance sheet. But at the moment, as I said earlier in the webinar today, the first webinars today, really we should be peaking around about now for the next 2 days in the equities market. And then he would be, okay, Charles says it will probably not be non-cumulative like the Australian bank hybrid. Okay, I don't know much about them, so they can pay dividends if they don't feel like it. But if they do feel like it, they pay a higher interest rate. I suspect it's an option higher interest rate. So if we're going to play the game, I think you should still. It's not going to be as easy as last year. In a lot of ways. Australian market might be better. Silver probably is better than gold. Platinum and palladium would be there. Sorry, Charles says if the Australian banks have no profit, hybrids are, however, years of profit dividend. Yeah, well, MicroStrategy be valued on, seen as profitable if the price of Bitcoin goes up, or if they actually generate income, which they don't. Interesting question. When can we have a bit of bear talk? Probably late February. Another one in June. See that as they come. That I hope that's good. A bigger picture still formulating, and as I said, the dramatic moves really usually don't happen until after the 21st of January, and generally have a rally into May in US equity and Australian equities as well to early May, where the banks start to divest of dividends. So I hope you all have had a good year last year, and I hope you have an even better year this year. Trading is the way, not buy and hold, probably happy. and I've been very happy by gold stocks that I've had. Hopefully start to do some fun trading up in the. Bye for now.